All right, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Toon podcast. We are the biggest and best podcast dedicated to all things Newcastle United in the Southern Hemisphere. John, with me today, I've got Mark and Lee both down in Brisbane. How are you doing, Mark? Start with you first.
Yeah, doing okay. It's been a while since I've been on, so good to be back on the pod and starting to ramp things up, ready for the new season.
And you, Lee?
Why, I am champion. How you doing, Craigie?
I can't complain. Faces
You got
looking a little
lipstick
bit brighter than normal. Look like I've been stood in front of the oven for half an hour. But
Looks like you got
I
lipstick
can't
on.
complain. But we'll crack on. We've got a bit of a jam-packed show. We're going to try and get through it as quick as we can. But we're going to start off with the inevitable news that I think everybody was just waiting for, and that is that Callum Wilson is injured yet again. So basically, this news broke just a day or two ago. He has had a procedure on his back, a procedure I believe that just basically translates to an operation. Which means he will miss all of pre-season. So that is the trip to Japan, the Salah Cup weekend, and he's got the possibility of missing the season opener against Southampton. Mark, I'll come to you first. When you first heard this news, were you A, not surprised, and B, were you thinking, here we go again?
I don't think any of us would be surprised whenever Wilson turns up croc, let's be fair. He plays less than he's injured at the moment. It's certainly someone that you can't rely on being fit. I think that's part of the problem, and I'm sure we'll discuss that. But no, I think it was inevitable in the build up that he's probably been asked to do a couple of sprints and stuffed his back up or something by twisting slightly the wrong way. He's made of tissue paper these days, so who knows?
Oh, it's so frustrating, though, like, when you've got a player of his quality and caliber, and yet you can't get the best out of him out of a full season, let alone a pre-season at this rate.
Which wouldn't be a problem if he was like third choice or something. But the fact is, he's basically second choice behind Isak, and you can't rely on him, as you say, for the season. And he is a good striker. He's a proper in-the-box poacher. He's got some fantastic finishes on him. But I think it's getting to the point now where you're like, Jesus, we need a proper, reliable backup for Isak. Isak himself will probably end up getting a knock or two during the season. Yeah. And then when you turn into the likes of Wilson and you go, oh, that's right, can't use him because he's in the bloody treatment room. Who else are you going to use? Andy Gordon? Who's going to come in to back up Isak? And if we don't sign someone, for example, who we're going to go to?
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second, but just a quick little stat on Wilson. So he's played 108 games for us since he signed. If he misses a season opener against Southampton, that means he's missed 85 competitive games for us. Granted, not all of them would have been through injury. There have been times when he's not included in the squad, whether it be early rounds of the FA Cup or the League Cup, whatever it would be. But 44% of games is a horrific statistic for somebody who we've relied on season after season until Isak came in, just effectively get us out of trouble and keep us in this league.
I think if you have a look at what he was doing under Ashley and Bruce, he was kind of there as you get enough out of him to kind of trickle over the line and make sure you stay up. We're kind of beyond that now. You can't have a striker. That's like two full seasons of games that he's not been available for. That's just not good enough. Given that he himself seems to have a big chip on his shoulder, that he's the biggest and the best, and he should be in the squad and he should be in the starting lineup, and you can't sell him because he's absolutely mint. It's like, well, yeah, look, you are when you're fit, but if you can only play like half a season or less, then you're no use to anyone.
Yeah, he's not short of confidence, is Wilson. He's going to come. Let's say he recovers and he comes back into the team. He's going to be coming in cold. I remember when he had that long layoff last time, and he was talking when he got back. He was like, "Oh, you know what? I'm actually a lot fresher than some of these other guys my age because I've been injured so much that I haven't been playing, and my body's all right, and I've had less kind of mileage on me." And then he goes and gets injured again, and you think, well, but it's not good you being the fittest 30-odd-year-old or whatever he is if you half the time you're in the bloody maternity ward in the
that's priceless. That it's like trying to spin. I'm constantly injured, but that's a positive because it means I haven't played enough games and therefore my body is still fresh. It's like no, it just means that you're injured all the time.
It does, yeah. But if you were getting a substantial amount of games out of him, then you could sort of say, well, maybe there's something in that. But I don't know. It just feels like we're at the stage now where we're getting less out of him than more. And when he comes back into the team, he's going to be cold. He's going to have to get up to speed. He's missed preseason. Is he going to be prone to getting another injury straight away because he's trying too hard to help the team? It's probably the worst situation you could ask for Wilson right now, I'd imagine.
Yeah, well, getting on to what you mentioned before about moving him on or putting Gordon up top or anything like that. If he does come back in time before the window slams shut at the end of August, would you aim to move him on and bring in a dedicated striker as a replacement? Or would you keep him around and thinking, let's try and get the best out of him in the last 12 months of his contract? I'll ask you that one first, Mark.
I think the time to move him on was the summer that we qualified for the Champions League. Same with Miggy. They were both on a high. Their stock was pretty much the highest it's going to be. There's no way we're going to get sensible transfer fees for either of those two now. We're kind of going to have to take whatever's going just to kind of offload them. I think I'm not adverse to keeping Wilson around as long as he's happy and he can keep his ego in check to be that off the bench player. Like I think we were talking on the group chat or something. We need like an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer kind of player that is going to be able to score your goals, but isn't going to be playing a lot of football. And unfortunately, I don't think Wilson's ego lets him settle into that role. He's only got 12 months on his contract. He's not going to we're potentially not going to re-sign him to a new deal, given his injury record. So either we sell him and get someone else in. But look, for me, I don't want to see Gordon anywhere but on the left. If he goes to the right as a swapping of the wingers, then that's great. I certainly don't want to see him as the out-and-out striker, even though he can play there. You don't want to have to rely on him doing that for like half a season just because Wilson's crocked. So for me, whatever happens with Wilson, we definitely need another striker in.
Yeah, I suppose the other option is maybe try and Joe Linton again in that striker position, which he
none of us want to see that.
I'll tell you what, though, he had some bloody handy finishes last season, didn't he?
I've still got pictures of him booting the ball into his own head while he was in front of goal. So yeah, let's not stick him back up top on his own again.
No. But no, you'd have to. Who's going to buy him for starters? Wilson says.
Yeah, that's the big thing.
Nottingham Forest probably aren't going to do us another favour, so they're not going to give us any money. And whatever money you do get, if someone does buy him, maybe he goes off to Saudi Arabia. Who knows? But and the warm weather would probably be nice for his bones and his muscles and stuff. But you probably, unless we're kind of wrangle it, we're probably not going to get a great deal of money, if anything, for him. He'll probably leave on a free end the next season. Maybe it's even January. And if he does go, thank you. He's been brilliant at times. He's been absolutely outstanding. He's been an incredible striker. When he's fit, he's a very good striker. But unfortunately, we're at the stage now where he's not fit enough to justify it. Really, we need a replacement.
If we were to sell him, do you go for an out-and-out striker to replace effectively the number 9 shirt that he'd leave behind? Or do you go for the versatile winger / striker combo? As Eddie obviously tends to value versatility. But would you just go for that outright goal poacher type player? Again, I'll come to you on this one, Lee, first.
I would love to get an out-and-out proper striker. Those are the ones that go for a ton of money, and few and far between, and there's 16 clubs after them. Usually get value for money. It's usually a case that you want to have multiple positions covered just in case you get injuries. Like last season, the injury situation was absolutely absurd. And it helps in those situations to have players who can play in different positions, Gordon up front or on the wing, for example. You need that to a certain extent. It would be lovely to have a dedicated striker. Can we even afford it with the way the PSR is? Can we even afford to have a top quality striker? Are you going to buy a prospect and hope that he works out? I don't know.
Well, we should be set. According to Darren Eales, we kind of got over the hurdle of that PSR pressure that we were under, and that now has dropped off the books. We've got the new sponsor deals coming in, so I think we should theoretically be okay for money. my concern, and I think Jack's mentioned this in the group chat a few times, is it's almost that Harry Kane situation where Spurs couldn't get that backup striker in that was good enough quality to play when he needed to, because there was no chance he was going to start games as long as Harry Kane was fit. And we've kind of got that same situation with Isak. It's like Isak is literally undroppable. If he's fit and he's raring to go, you put him in the starting lineup. It's as simple as that. And you need somebody to be able to kind of take a little bit of that pressure off him. So again, like a Wilson coming off the bench on like 70 minutes, absolutely fine. No problems at all with that. But you know, we desperately need some reinforcements on the right wing, the right attacking forward. And, you know, do you hedge your bets and say, well, we're going to get somebody in to be on the right who can play up front if they need to? I know Craig's been pushing Mbeumo, who probably could fill that role. But, you know, time will tell. And I guess we kind of need that flexibility, as you said, because we still don't have that fully kitted out squad right now. And so any big money signings that we do get probably do need to be that flexible role that we can slot around if we need to, if we do get another injury headache.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm very frustrated, and I've let my frustrations go on the whole Callum Wilson thing. Like I said, we can flog anybody, whether it be the Knacker's Yard, sell him for a human experiments, whatever. Just get some money for him, purely on the fact that he's such a liability now. I would just literally cut my losses, take what we could for him, get his 100 grand a week or whatever he's reported on off the books, bring in a young, hungry, fit striker who can maybe pay half his wages, that type of thing. But you know you're going to get maybe 25, 30 appearances from him, even if it's just the majority as a sub player, like the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer type, as you mentioned before, Mark. I just think it's about time we did. And I think even he knows that now. He knows his time at the club is up, whether that's this summer. Don't think he'll go in January, but he'll definitely be away next summer because obviously his contract is up on that one. There's been one or two names mentioned around in terms of striker. There was that the Canadian fella who I've been keeping an eye on for a little while. Didn't do too great in the Copa America, although they did get to the semi-final. But we do need somebody, whether it's a world-class striker. Not going to happen because we've got Isak. Not many clubs have two world-class strikers in their squad, but we definitely need somebody who's going to come in, score a few goals and off the bench, start those early cup games and give Isak a chance to rest his legs. Because again, as you mentioned, Lee, Isak is prone to pick up the odd knock or two himself as well. So we'll see what happens over the next few weeks, but I'm very disappointed in Wilson again, as I imagine you both are and everybody else is. But let us know what you think of the Wilson situation down in the comments below. If you'd keep him, if you'd flog him, or if you just think he needs to just pack it in and just go to a country where the football isn't quite as demanding, such as Saudi Arabia, something like that. But we'll move on. We're going to move on now to transfer news. So we're going to start off with the outgoings of Newcastle. And the big one, which to be honest, I don't know much of, but I know you two are both talking about it in a fair bit of detail this morning on our private chat. And that is Kevin De Bruyne moving to Saudi Arabia, which then opens the door for them to pick out Bruno from us, as they've cooled their interest in his best friend and betting enthusiast, Lucas Paquetá. Now, Mark, on this one, how do you see this playing out, and do you actually see the transfer happening?
It's difficult. I mean, Man City, for one, apparently, if you don't know how much to pay attention to the rumors, as I think Lee said this morning, and like someone's putting 2 and 2 together and getting 8. It's one of those weird things where I'm surprised that De Bruyne is going to Saudi at his stage of his career. I'm sure, but you know he's won everything, so why not make an absolute killing over there and get a big pay packet? But him leaving, I think, gives Man City a massive gap. They have a big hole to fill, and we know that their interests there in Bruno. Bruno is probably an ideal candidate to fill in for De Bruyne. And obviously the big thing for us is Paquetá's kind of done his dash with West Ham, kind of eking out as many games as they can before his inevitable ban if he gets done for all of his match fixing stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, Man City are not touching that one with a barge pole at the moment, so it makes sense for them to go after another player. The thing that annoyed me this morning was they didn't want to pay 100 million. This is stories were going around that they wanted to pay 80 million, and they were going to sweeten the deal by letting us loan one of their young players. So it's like, I'm not sure how that works. So basically we get less money and we help you out by developing one of your players that then you get back, and we've got no guarantee that we could then sign. So, you know, in 12 months time, we're basically less money in the bank and we've still got no player. So for me, it's just mind-boggling how some of these stories go. And I think that to me is one of the big things that was like, yeah, I'm not sure that we're actually going to go there, and that we would advocate selling Bruno. The worry is, of course, Man City come calling with a massive pay packet and sort of, you know, we're going to win everything under the sun, so you're going to get some trophies. It's a hard thing for players to turn down these days.
How do you see this one pan out, Lee?
Well, I mean, we should probably just reiterate that this is all rumours and speculation and 2+2s. Yeah, I mean, just on that last point, offering, I think I said this in the chat actually, offering Bruno 3 times his wages, whatever it might be that he gets offered, to work with Guardiola, one of the best in the world, has been for a long time, and pretty much guaranteed as close as you can get it to actually win trophies, silverware, whatever it might be, titles. That's got to be pretty alluring for anybody. Like, these guys are employees, they're workers, very well paid workers, loaded workers, but workers nonetheless. They're employees. They have to look after their own interests, and they do. You don't go into football generally to just kind of make up the numbers. I think it's fair to say most people who play football want to win things. It's kind of the whole point, really. So if the offer came in from City, then I think you'd have to be honest and say, well, Bruno's right to think about it, at least to consider it. He can be loved as much as he likes at Newcastle, but who knows what next time we win a trophy? It's been bloody ages. It could be bloody ages until the next chance we get. Who knows? I mean, it could be this season. Who knows? But it could be a long time, and it's not the same equation for Man City. I'm not even sure if does he even play the same position as KDB anyway, because
different players, but I think it's kind of that he'll be able to slot into that midfield somewhere, and I'm sure Pep will find a way to make it work.
I mean, if anybody can do it, it would be Pep, wouldn't it? So you might say, well, is he going to be second? Is he going to be first? Is he going to literally go into the team as a first choice? Is he going to be rotated? How's that going to work? Does that matter? All these things. And then the De Bruyne thing, I think he was quoted as saying that where he is in his career, he could earn, I think he said, as much in 2 years as he has for the last previous 15 or something. That would be the kind of money he'd be getting from Saudi Arabia. So he was basically making a point that it's definitely something he needs to consider at his position in his time in his career, and you can understand that as well.
For sure.
Whether or not that does equal Bruno going to City, who knows? But I wouldn't, just like Eddie Howe to England, I wouldn't rule this out just because he loves the club and all this kind of stuff, all the emotional hot stuff. You've got to look at it from a more black and white, excuse the pun, side of things. I think you've got to look at it as like, what would any of us do in that situation? If anybody comes in with those kind of offers, not just the money though, like an offer to win things, to actually win things, that's got to be appealing to the likes of Bruno and anybody else. And so
look, if someone came and offered me 3 times my salary to go to a research institute that has more money to spend on instrumentation, and we're going to get the best of the best, and I'm going to get to work with all of the best scientists in the world, and you're going to seriously like think, well, that's actually a pretty decent move for me, even if it means moving to another area of the country. You take that hit because, well, you're getting more money for doing it, so you can afford to live wherever you want.
And Bruno's young, like he's young. He's got a lot of career in front of him. He's probably aimed to be at Real Madrid, like most Brazilians are. If he goes to City, does well there, maybe it's the next step is the likes of Real. So from a career progression perspective, it could be a hell of a move. But this is all speculation. It's all speculation.
And I think one of the things that I was saying this morning is it'll feel probably worse losing Bruno now if it was to happen, purely and simply because we had to let Elliot Anderson and Nkuba Minte go. for PSR reasons earlier in the window.
Mhm.
And if we'd sold Bruno then it would have been no problem. So it kind of feels like you're then losing 3 players, but we didn't need to lose the other 2.
Sure, particularly as we want somebody down the right. If Miggy's kind of injured or he goes, and Minter could have been that person, but he never even trained with his Newcastle teammates.
No.
We never saw him once. And yeah, that would be a kick in the nuts. That would absolutely be a right bollock kicker. Yeah, but again, it's all speculation.
Quick one then again on the Bruno before we move on to the next name. You mentioned before 80 million quid plus a player on loan. Now, to me, that's pathetic. If it was happening, I pray to God it doesn't, and I don't think it actually will. Surely it has to be a club record for both. By that, I mean north of 100 million quid, because that's what they paid for Jack Grealish.
Yeah, I don't see how Bruno goes for anything less than what Grealish did. Like, to me, I know we talk about the English tax and all that sort of stuff, but let's be fair, there's probably a Brazilian tax as well. But it's going from a top Premier League club to another top Premier League club, and we're not like up the top of the echelons of football at the moment, but we're pushing to get up there. We've been in the Champions League. We in the 9 out of the last 10 seasons, we would have qualified for Europe by finishing 7th, save for Man U sort of arsey final win in the FA Cup. So look, if you take all of that in consideration, it's like they're not poaching a player from, no disrespect, but like, they're not poaching a Bournemouth player or whatever. They're poaching like someone. They're trying to get somebody from another rival club that's trying to push up the league. Pay the money. If you want the player, you pay the money. If you don't pay the money, then jog on, find someone else.
Yep. So we're going to move on now. Trippier. Now, back in January, it was rumored that he was on his way to Bayern Munich. All these talks had been happening. Eddie did confirm that Bayern did bid, but we knocked it back. And a few weeks ago, it is confirmed that his house is up for sale. And I think it is confirmed he's also split it from his missus as well. And that clearly showed in his form towards the back end of the season, which was beyond terrible. It was the worst he's ever been. But Trips was the first one through the door post-takeover. We have to give him absolute credit in everything that he's done for the club since he's been here, whether it be on the pitch or off the pitch in his leadership role. Do you think it's time we cash in on Trips? Now we've got Tino there. I'll ask you firstly.
I mean, he's been such an important signing, player, leader of this team since he came through the door as the first real big transfer after the takeover. You can't underestimate the impact he's had on this club, the mentality, the drive and all the rest of it. His professionalism is unquestionable. I mean, there was lots of rumors during the last season that something was up with him and his missus, and it was never. I don't think it was ever really confirmed, but there was that much smoke that there had to be a bit of fire going on. And his performances dipped somewhat. He was slipping all over the place. His delivery was terrible. His mind probably wasn't where it needed to be, and you have to be focused at the top of your game. And he suffered, and the team suffered as well. And he's not getting any younger either. But as you saw in the Euros, he still can do a job. He was out of position, and he still, for the most part, did a pretty good job, in my opinion. People say, no, he was terrible, but he was out of position. And I think he did tremendously well, really, all things considered. He played a lot of minutes as well. I don't know. The thing about letting him go is that we have to see, if you think about the fullbacks, you might say, well, Lewis Hall and Tino are the first choice now, fullbacks, left and right. You might say that. I don't know if it's true, but you might say that. Who's the backup for them? You're going to have what? Kraft at right back?
Harrison Ashby is the other one.
And so I don't know about you, but I'm not putting any confidence in those two. I know I meme a lot about Kraft, but and and before he got injured last time, mind you, he was actually having a pretty good go at it. But he isn't the best over a season. And if you're serious about it, you need to have, I think, an upgrade in that department. And Harris Ashby, I mean, who knows even what you're going to get from him. So you let Trippier go, you've then given yourself potentially another signing that you need to make at that sort of backup position. Or there's Target as well if he still exists. If he's actually still physically existing, he's an option. But who knows even what state he's in? Because he's hardly ever been seen. So I don't know. It's not as straightforward as saying, well, he's old and he was a bit shit last season, and he's this and that. Let's get rid of him. I think if you do that, you've got to fill that position with quality. I don't know. Fullback positions aren't as difficult as strikers, so maybe they have things lined up there. But I don't know, man. If he does go, he gets my thanks wholeheartedly. Whatever he ends up doing, he's been absolutely crucial to what we did.
Your thoughts on it, Mark?
Yeah, look, Trippier's been absolutely huge for us. First one through the door, signed up when we were in a pretty diabolical situation. We were staring down the barrel of relegation, still signed up for it. So whatever happens, he's got my heartfelt thanks and appreciation for his efforts in guiding us to where we are at the moment. I think if we're realistic, then the future is Tino. Tino's not without his injury concerns either, though. That's the problem. And so you're looking at somebody who may miss games. You need an adequate person to come in and take over for him. So, look, maybe Trippier is at that point where, maybe he's not going to get into that World Cup squad for England now, and maybe he needs to realise that. And maybe, he takes on a bit more of a bench role, a support role at the club. If he wants to leave, though, who knows, maybe Saudi come in for him, offer him a wodge load of money. Happy for him to go. As I said, I've got no grudges no matter what he wants to do. I think if it was up to me, I'd keep him around because, as Lee said, if he goes, as much as Kraft can come in and do a job here and there, then I don't want to rely on him if Tino goes down for a long-term injury.
No. If Eddie Howe gets the England job, Trippier is pretty much a shoo-in, isn't he, for a start in the World Cup?
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
One thing regarding Trips on a bench job here, he's clearly, or at least he doesn't seem in any way to be as ego-driven as what Wilson would be. Because Wilson wants to play 90 minutes of every game, but obviously we know he can't. Trips, you get the idea that he knows his career is slowly coming to an end. He doesn't have that long left to play. So you think he would be that bit happier with a bench role as opposed to what Wilson would be, you reckon?
Whatever happens with Trippier, there would be nobody happier than I if he decided he wanted to hang around and move into a coaching role with us. I think that would be the ideal scenario for us. So yeah, you obviously don't want to lose him and then have to try and entice him back. I think, if he could sort of stay at the club, see out his days of actually playing the game and maybe move into that player coach role and then move into a full-time coach role with the club. I'd be all keen for that. We get on and we joke on about like Big Dan Burn and Gillespie and last season we had Richie for literally just there for cheerleaders on the sideline. You want someone like Trippier in that dressing room just because of the professionalism, that winning mentality, the attitude that he has, the leadership that he has. So yeah, for me, if we can keep him around and he's happy to kind of have maybe a bit a less part because Tino's like the main guy moving forward, I'm still happy to keep him around, but it's up to him whether he's happy with that or not.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Now, I'm going to move on to a player who's been with Newcastle for a good number of years now, but he fell out of the picture quickly after he got injured, and as Eddie came in, and that is Isaac Hayden. QPR are looking to make his loan deal that he had last season a permanent one. Now, Isaac Hayden was never going to be the player to take us forward in terms of moving up the table or anything, but again, he was a solid performer when he did under Rafa. I think it was Rafa that signed him in that championship season. Again, solid player, but he'll go with our blessing as far as I'm concerned. We won't get much for him. He's not on a huge wage, so that's not really going to free up a lot in that regard. But it's another one of those players that we need to move on just for the sake of getting them off the books, you think, Mark?
Yeah, look, he's been an absolute professional for all of his. I mean, he dug us out of the shit a number of times while he was playing for us. Again, some dark days. He was never going to be that superstar player for us. He was like that journeyman workhorse player that kind of just gets in, puts himself about, works hard for the team, doesn't sort of shirk a challenge, does what he needs to do, tries his hardest for us, but is going to be a little bit limitation in terms of the quality that he brings. But if you recall, he was basically, he put in a transfer request and he said, look, he wants to move back down to London because of family reasons and all that sort of stuff. But nobody came in for him, but never once did he throw the toys out the pram. He always put 100% effort in. He worked his hardest for the club every time he was needed. So for me, he is like the epitome of professionalism that more players probably need to look to in terms of how to handle situations when, you know, they don't quite get their own way. And, you know, Ryan Fraser's kind of the other one that's people are hoping that goes out the door quite soon for very opposite reasons to why we're kind of wishing Hayden farewell with our best wishes.
Yeah, no, I would just echo exactly what you just said about Hayden. He was brilliant at times during our championship seasons, and you know, he had a few injuries, didn't he, and that kind of impaired him a little bit. But the fact that he managed to put his head down and graft it out despite not getting the move that he seemed to really desperately want at the time as well for family reasons shows you the mark of the man. I hope he does go to QPR and make a career out of whatever's left with his time in football. Consummate professional. Wish him all the best. And it is those kind of players that we probably do need to shift to release some money on the wages and that kind of side of thing as well. But no, he was excellent. He was a brilliant player. He was. I'm
still not sure how he got an 8-year contract, mind.
Mike Ashley,
Yeah.
Lee Farley, say no more. But no, he's great. I mean, Fraser. I used to love Fraser when he was at Bournemouth, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And at times he was great for us as well, and all the banter with Big Dan Burn and all the rest of it. But I think him and Eddie Howe just have this friction that can't get beyond after a certain amount of time. And yeah, he needs to go. He's at the under-21s training now, which is just ridiculous, you know, like a bad smell wafting through the door. Eddie Howe would be like, oh God, he's here. You know, he needs to be gone for his own reasons, let alone the club's. But I mean, how much is he on? Because that's money that we could do with as well on the wages.
Sure.
45 a week, apparently. He was a free transfer, so he had a decent wage.
So combined, that's probably what, like nearly 90 grand a week or something. They're both on roughly 40.
Fraser's on reportedly 22. No, Fraser, sorry, Hayden on 22.
22.
Yeah, he's on a low wage because he signed a long-term contract, didn't he?
That's mad. 22, right? Okay. Well, hopefully he gets a boost to his wage if he goes to QPR as well. And Fraser needs to go. He just needs. He's wasting his career. Whatever's left of it. Yeah. In the under-21s is pointless. Well, Southampton still in for him. Does Southampton still want him? By the way,
not a clue.
No,
it's all gone cold on that front.
Well, it's because they wanted him. They wanted us to pay his wages and give him a free transfer as well. And was like, well, hang on. So that doesn't work.
That's not how it works.
Jesus.
Definitely not how it works. But the other two players I want to just quickly mention before going to the ins for us. And that is Dubravka and Miggy are due back from their international break very shortly. Do you expect both of those to be moved on before the window shuts? I know Dubs was linked with the move to Celtic, but they've just signed a new keeper, so that maybe curtails that one a bit. But both of them, I can't imagine have got a future at the club. I'll go to you on this one, Mark.
I think the problem with Miggy, I'm a huge Miggy fan. I think he's always put everything into to working his ass off for the club. And as much as everyone berates his, some of his efforts last season, we wouldn't have been in the Champions League had it not been for his purple patch, because he scored some crucial goals for us in that season that we qualified for Europe. So, he's got his limitations. We always knew he had his limitations, but it was always going to be that thing of, well, there's no point signing somebody if they're not an actual proper improvement on him. But I think we're at that time now where that is kind of like the weak link in that front three. You've got Gordon, who's absolutely superstar, Isak, who's in contention for Golden Boot probably next year. And then you've got sort of Miggy and Murphy on the right. Now, I've been really impressed with Murphy, and I think he is an absolutely ideal candidate to keep around the club because he's a fan. He's good fun, let's be fair. He's a walking meme half the time. But you know, you're probably not going to get a lot of money for him. Miggy, you're not going to get a lot of money for, but realistically, we probably need to move one of those on. And I think I'd prefer Miggy because Murphy is going to be happier in that bench role, that supporting role, and we need to really upgrade that position. So I'm hoping Miggy goes. The stories were that Saudi had bid for him, but he turned it down and he didn't want to move there, which, you know, look, I've got no problem with that. If the player doesn't want to move somewhere because of family reasons, and I think I said at the time, you can't say, oh, well, we hope Bruno stays around because he's got a young family and doesn't want to uproot them, while at the same time going, oh, but we want Miggy to like sod off because we don't want him anymore. He's got to like uproot his family, even though he's got a young kid as well. So, you know, you can't have it both ways. My thing with Dubravka is he shat in his own nest when he moved to Man United and then let us down in the cup final because we had to then go to a keeper who had never played a game for us in a cup final.
Yep.
You know, that to me left a lot of sour taste in a lot of fans' mouths. Now he's come back in, he's done his best. He's just not suited to our style of football that we want to play under Eddie Howe at the moment. He's not that sweeper keeper. He's one of those keepers who is a decent shot stopper on his day, but his distribution's not great. He doesn't really come to collect the ball with authority, and he's certainly glued to his line. I think for him, he probably needs to move if he sees he wants to be a number one keeper somewhere. And I suspect there's probably that feeling that he will want to move on. And I expect some sort of deal to be done at some point. I don't think we'll get a lot of money for him, but you know, who knows? Time will tell. But get him out. We've got his replacement already in the club.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree on Dubravka. I think he's the easiest of the two. He'll be gone. There's I think I said this last season or the end of last season. I don't see any way that he'll be at this club next season. And if he is, it'll be the under-21s, like playing alongside Fraser probably. Although Eddie is a pragmatist as well, so you never know. You know, he might still utilize him. But he constantly, every time he gets asked, it seems he's constantly talking about moving away and getting the number one position in a different club and all that. And that's entirely his prerogative. You know, players want to play football, no problem with that. Yeah, I haven't forgiven him for the piss take with Man United. I haven't forgiven him that at all, and I don't think I ever will, because frankly, he stuffed up our final chances. For what? Absolutely nothing in the end. It's not like he got anything out of it. He got like a Man United on his CV. Who the fuck cares? Yeah, I mean,
I think the thing that really did a lot of fans in was when he was pictured in his Man United kit watching Man U on TV after he'd moved there, and then he'd posted something on Instagram going like, oh yeah, come on United or something like that. And I think that was kind of hang on, dude, like literally you're not even their full-time player. Yeah. Like let's dial stuff back a bit. I think he got a bit overexcited. I think he properly took the huff because Nick Pope was brought in. So look, I get that. It's like he was the number one keeper and he's basically lost his position. So, well, why have I lost that? I haven't. And to be fair, he's probably the one player that Eddie Howe has not said, earn your position. When Nick Pope came in, Nick Pope basically went straight in and he was the number one keeper. And I think that probably is what maybe undermined Dubravka's commitment a little bit more. But yeah, I don't see him being here.
Yeah, as for Miggy, I think we talked about having good options off the bench. He can still be that. His final ball probably is never going to get good, but he can still come on. He's still got a bit of pace about him. You can still, at times, pick a pass. You can still blam them in at times. So an option from the bench probably isn't so bad. I don't know if you need that option and Murphy, who can do much of the same thing, but also have an end product. When you could probably, for the front three, have Gordon down the right and Barnes on the left, if you wanted to go as the first choice front three. Do you need then two backups for the right wing? But if Miggy doesn't want to go up to, the desert of Saudi Arabia, I kind of blame him. Like, hey, I wouldn't necessarily want to do that myself either. Particularly not with a young family settled in an area that like he loves in Newcastle. I think that one's a little bit more tricky, but I think the Dubravka one, I think he'll go one way or another. He doesn't want to be here. He keeps talking about it. Just doesn't want to be here.
Yeah, fair enough. So we'll move on to the ins now. The first one is a name that I think, to be honest, was just plucked out of thin air. But his name did do the rounds across social media. Got a lot of tongues wagging, and that is Kang-in of PSG. He's a versatile attacking midfielder who can play through the middle or on either wing. He did only just sign for PSG last summer, and he's contract until 2028. Can't really see this one happening, and I can't really see Saudi and Qatar wanting to do business with each other. They're not exactly best friends, those two. And after the antics in the Champions League as well, with that handball shenanigans, I just can't see this one coming off. Albeit he would be a player who not only would sell a lot of shirts in South Korea, but would add that much added quality to the squad in terms of Miggy's direct replacement. I'll come to you on this one, Lee. Do you know much about him at all?
I haven't got a clue, mate. I haven't got a clue. Yeah, but the international kind of awareness thing is can be worth the signing price alone. I mean, you look at the likes of Son. He's the obvious one that everyone thinks of at Spurs, and how he's revered in South Korea, and all the Spurs fans who are there directly as a result of him being at Spurs. He's a bloody superstar when he goes back home, by all accounts. Yeah, that in itself is worth something, but you also want to get the football inside of it. Son is an unbelievably good player. Like, if this guy was anything like that, I'll be all for it, honestly.
Yeah. Do you know much about him, Mark?
So I think this all came about because it was reported that somebody had put a bid in for him, and obviously everyone again adding everything up and coming up with massive numbers. We clearly with a team that were after him. He played the position that we were after. He was that decent big name that we could have got that would make an impact. He's only like 23. He's definitely not the finished product. He's got that typical South Korean player kind of drive and energy that we kind of would miss if Miggy did leave. So in terms of that side of his game, I think he's good. He's got more end product than Miggy probably, and he's still got plenty of room to kind of develop his game with more game time. I don't know how. That's all gone very quiet, so maybe it has just been complete speculation, but that's one player that I certainly would not say no to. And by all accounts, his current salary is not extortionate at PSG. It's pretty high because obviously it's PSG and they burn money for fun. I think it was something like about £110,000 a week or something, which is kind of putting him up there with like the Brunos and the Isaks kind of thing, but. If you want to, you'd make that back on shirt sales alone. Apparently, one of the guys on Twitter I was chatting to, he lives in South Korea, and apparently he like PSG shirts everywhere because of that guy, Kang-in Lee. So, that's something that if the club are definitely serious about expanding the market, that's a pretty easy stepping stone to get some international exposure. As long as the quality is there, we can't just buy a player because they're Mr. Superstar back in their home country, but he's actually pretty shit when he comes to the Premier League.
Yeah. Well, the next name on the list is again a name that keeps popping up again. He was actually mentioned 12 months ago, and that's UVA winger Federico Chiesa. Now, Mark, you've got a few reservations on this bloke purely because, again, injury record. I mean, we seem to be signing every player who's had an ACL injury, who's ever existed or kicked that big round thing in the middle. But apparently the old lady, Juventus, they want to cash in on him. He's only 25. The new boss, Thiago Motta, isn't really a fan and doesn't see him as a player in the squad. Do you see this one as having a bit more concrete to it and there's a bit more chance it could happen?
Potentially. I think there's a lot of upsides to it if it all ticks the right boxes. Transfer fee apparently was being quoted around about 20 million, which is an absolute bargain for an Italian international. On his day is an absolute worldy player, capable of scoring goals, can play on either side of midfield of that attacking, like left or the right. So could probably do that interchange with Gordon if we need to in games to kind of freshen things up. Obviously, it's another Italian in the squad, so it keeps Tonali happy and keeps that kind of like what we have with Bruno and Joe Linton. You've got that little camaraderie in the side that kind of can only help. The big thing for me though is injuries. He had a bad ACL. And I think the main reason why Juve want rid of him is because he's never really come back from that. And I think he's living a little bit on past glories and past achievements, and he's not really performing the way he should at the moment. Let's be fair. If he was playing anywhere near decent, Juve would not be trying to flog him. So that should be a big red flag for anybody that's looking to chip in a lot of salary wise. I don't think he's actually that bad. I think he was potentially on about 140,000 a week, but I think that may have been euros. I'm not sure, but yeah, for me, it's a yes. It would be nice if he came and he got back to his best, but given our injury records of last season, the last thing we need is another player that's going to be sort of keeping the physios in a job.
Well, Lee, you are nodding your head in agreement there for those who are listening to this. I take it you echo everything Mark just said?
Well, I know not about the bloke, surprise. But if he is injury prone, yeah, it's understandable why Juve might be trying to move him on. They're moving on their problem to someone else. We would have to be extremely confident in our own abilities to make sure that the guy stayed fit and performed for us if we signed him. And let's be honest, going by last season, I personally would not be that confident about our abilities to keep people fit. But but everything else, though, I just hope we check into his gambling habits before we sign him. Don't need that shit again.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's another one where his name keeps popping up. There could be some traction in it. It could just be internet bullshit. Who knows? Again, nothing is confirmed until the player is stood in front of the Newcastle United sign, holding up the scarf. Next name, and this name again has got a bit more traction to it and sticking with Italy. And I want to try and pronounce his surname. I've got no idea who it is. This is German player Marek Thiaw. I have no idea how it is. But he continues to be linked with the club. He's currently at AC Milan. They have already signed his potential replacement, which gives credence to the fact that we are strong linked with this player and that he could be on his way to Tyneside. He did play against us in the Champions League last season, I believe. He put in a decent shift. He's only young as well and could be Botman's long-term partner moving forward as Shaw comes to the end of his career. Not that showing signs of slowing down, to be honest. But yeah, this one's definitely got a bit more traction to it than the other two, I reckon. And a right-sided centre-back is somebody we probably do need this window. I'll come to you on that one, Lee.
Well, that position is continuously brought up whenever anyone talks about transfers and, weaknesses in the squad. So I guess that's a tick in the box for that. I don't know anything about this fella, but if he's Italian, check his browser history, all in now where he's putting his bets on. Mark will have some information.
You know which one?
He's German. He's just playing in Italy. AC clearly owe us a favor as well, by the way.
Yeah,
that's true.
They definitely owe us something. So yeah, if they've already signed his replacement, hopefully we can do a nice deal with them. But we just make sure that yes, he's above board. Look, he looks a decent player. He's young enough. He's got pace, which we're desperate for at the back. I think the one thing that we are severely lacking in our defense is that pace to kind of. While we're comfortable with the likes of Botman, who's got that positional awareness, there is always going to be that time where the team gets through and past you, and we need that ability to be able to have someone who's just going to be able to leg it past everyone and put a match-saving block in on an attacker. So someone with a good deal of pace, I'd be well and truly happy to get in that defense at the moment. But yeah, look, again, it's all conjecture at the moment, but it does seem to have a little bit more traction, this one, as you said.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments down below the three names that are rumoured to be coming in, whether you'd want all three, just one, and which one you would prefer out of them, and which position you think is the most important that we need to fill this window. We'll move on to the third and final topic today, and that is the leaked photos of the new third kit. I want to bring them up on screen right here. Now, I shared those photos on Twitter yesterday, and there was a lot of, let's say, positive and negative comments regarding this. Personally, I'm not a fan. Mark, Lee, I'll get your opinion.
Shit.
Short and to the point. Look, I don't know. There's some of it I quite like, but there's other bits of it. I just the sleeves do my head in. I think the NUFC badge is way too big. And yeah, we'll show the side view of the sleeve in a minute. For anyone who's looking, that will do anybody's head in who has anywhere even a remote amount of OCD. That the fact that they haven't bothered putting the Noon patch in line with those 3 stripes is just, whether or not that's just they haven't bothered for that one in particular, or whether they're all going to be like that. But yeah, for me, it would have been probably better off having just that green just at the very thread at the bottom, just like the hem at the bottom of the sleeve. This halfway up the sleeve shit just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't look good. The colors I'm happy with. The style, I don't mind the collar like that, but I know a lot of people don't like those collars. A lot of people have been criticizing the actual club badge. A lot of people don't like the 3 stripes that Adidas are putting out and want the back to the trefoil things. Which I'm interested to see what happens with it, because I think Keegan was telling us that it should be the trefoil on that one. So whether or not this leaked kit is wrong, I don't know, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, not a huge fan of it, I have to say.
Yeah, it's not a one I'd be excited to open under the Christmas tree later on this year, that's for sure. It certainly had a mixed reaction. Certainly not as popular as the maroon and blue Entertainers kit that is rumoured to be our away one, which again was leaked again online. This one's definitely got a bit of controversy. I'm not a fan. Not one that I will be splashing my cash on. Lee, I don't think you will be as well, and I can't imagine you'll be telling your mother to send one over either.
No chance. I'll be going straight back if she does, though. It's just they've based it on the away kit, and I couldn't remember what year it was, but you told me it was the 99-2000 season. And I've got that on my screen right now, and that looks like miles better than what this thing is. Like the greens aren't even the same green. I don't know if that green's relative to something. Yeah, the old school NUFC. That's one of the first badges I can remember. On one of the very first kits that I had. It's oversized, and I don't really think it works anymore either as a design. Like if this was a retro inspired shirt that wasn't intended to get used in a game, then whatever. But like if it's going to be worn in an actual game, that's going to look kind of a bit weird. They've got those little black bits under the arms that kind of interfere with the 3 stripes on the Adidas to a little bit there. Yeah, the paint dip end of the sleeve thing, it's bloody awful. The seller logo probably should have been in black. The Noon badge, I just hate anyway. Just wherever they put the Noon badge, it just looks shit.
Yeah.
Like, the sign of a good sponsor, in my opinion, is one who's willing to let their logos be recolored to match the style of the shirt that they're doing. And I can understand, like, you're a sponsor, you want to be noticed, but like from a design sensibility side of things, I'd much prefer to have this thing. It could have been black with white. It could have been, white with black. It could have been anything. Almost anything's better than what they went with. But that's the same for every shirt. But this, nothing on the back, just white canvas. What color the number's going to be, do you reckon? Black?
Black it'll have to be.
Yeah, have to be black.
Shorts, are they going to be that green color?
I reckon it'll be white and green with a bit of black on. Aye. We'll wait and see.
Not for me.
But I'm not a fan of it. Out of 10, I'm probably going to give it a 2. It's one of the worst kits I think I've seen in a long time. Lee, I probably reckon you're going to give it lower than a 2. Mark, probably not much higher.
I'll go for 3. 3 for me.
Yeah.
It's getting no from me. It's bloody awful. And I mean, the thing is as well, that probably hasn't been considered. Like if this is the first goal of Adidas being our new kit maker, and this is a design they come out with as like here's our flag in the sand for your third kit. It's shite. I mean,
it is.
Yes, the only way up is the only way they can go now is up, but I don't know about anyone else, but I was expecting them to just, blow us out of the water with something like incredible.
See, I have to hold my hands up here and say I was not expecting Adidas shirts to be what everyone had in their head that they were going to be. I think the nostalgic effect here is very strong, and I think everyone's thinking back to the good old days under Keegan and the Adidas shirts, and everyone was happy. if you have a look at some of their shirts for some of the other clubs that are in there, you know, we're in that elite club of you know, Bayern Munich. Is it Bayern Munich, Juve,
Man United and Arsenal.
Man United, Arsenal. I can't
Maybe
remember
one or
who
two more.
else.
Yeah.
Real Madrid, maybe.
Yeah, Real Madrid or Adidas as well.
Go and have a look at Arsenal's shirts. Go and have a look at Juve's shirt. Juve's home shirt last season was an abomination. It literally looked half finished. It looked like I would just sort of splash some stuff. It was scribbled, yeah. It was like scribbled on the shirt.
Yeah, that was,
you know, they have not got a good track record lately of producing really killer shirts. So I did not have high hopes anyway. So the home shirt is okay. The away shirt, if it's what's being rumored, is looking like it's probably the one that I'll go for. But yeah, this one again, it's sort of like it's kind of ticking a box of, well, we've got a third shirt, but realistically, they haven't really done a lot of thought into that, I don't think.
Yeah, can't be imagine many pre-orders for that one. You'll get the die-hard fans who'll buy it regardless. We'll go what the colour would be, even though it's pink with purple spots. You'll get those fans that'll go and get it. But yeah, it's definitely going to be a no from me. I will be keeping my eye out for the away kit. I know both of you are maybe keen on that one as well, going back to the entertainer style. But yeah, it's a no from me. But let us know what you think in the comments below on that kit. If you plan on getting it, you're going to wait until you see one in the flesh, if that is the real deal. But I think we'll leave it there, lads. Thank you both very much for joining me. We'll get this just under an hour. We are pretty much already there. I'll let you both go. Enjoy the rest of your night, and I will catch you both on the next one.
Cheers, Craigie.
Cheers, boys.
See you later.